I've always been known as Moses' sister, but that's not how I saw myself. I was Miriam, a prophetess, a leader in my own right. I knew my role, and I knew the responsibility it carried. I wasn't just standing in Moses' shadow, I was beside him, helping to lead, guiding the women. But there were moments when it felt like no one saw me for who I truly was. It wasn't easy being a woman in a position of power, especially with my brother always in the spotlight. People don't always understand the weight of being a leader, especially when the world isn't ready for you to lead. I wasn't jealous, not really, but I did wonder, why was Moses chosen to lead in such a visible way, while I was left to support? I had my doubts. I had my moments of frustration, but I knew God had a plan, and I had to trust in it, even when everything felt out of balance. Welcome to Testament Unspoken, where we bring biblical stories to life through the eyes of those who lived them. Each episode offers a raw, first-person perspective on some of the most powerful figures in Scripture, told with emotion, honesty, and depth. Please subscribe for more stories like this. I wasn't just Moses' sister. I was a prophetess. I spoke for God. I had my own voice, my own calling, but sometimes it felt like that didn't matter. When we were in Egypt, when we were trapped, no one looked to me. They looked to Moses. He had the staff. He had the words. Everyone followed him, but I was right there with him. I led the women. I guided them. I comforted them. I strengthened them. And when we crossed the Red Sea, when God parted the waters, and we walked on dry ground, that moment, it was mine too. When the women sang, when they danced in joy, it was my voice they followed. I led them in praise to God. I was the one who brought them together, lifting their voices as one. And in that moment, I felt seen. But then I would look to Moses, and it was like he had the whole world's attention. How could I lead when Moses was the one with the staff, the one everyone looked to? I was proud of my role, but sometimes it felt like no one saw me. Did they see me? Did they see me for who I truly was? I knew my purpose, but the world didn't always know what to make of me. They all looked at him, they followed him, and I was just his sister. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to know you have something to offer, but no one notices. Moses was the one everyone turned to. He had the staff, the authority. He spoke for God, and they followed him. But what about me? I had been with him from the very beginning. I had watched over him when he was just a baby. I had hidden him in the basket, trusting God to keep him safe. I had seen God's calling on him before anyone else did. And yet, when the time came for the world to see who Moses was, it felt like no one even saw me. Was it jealousy? Yes, sometimes. But it wasn't just about jealousy. It was the frustration of knowing I had played a part in all of this. Yet my voice felt so small compared to his. I had something to offer. I had wisdom, I had strength, I had faith, but every time Moses took the lead, my role became a whisper in the background. Did they even realize what I had done? Did they see me for who I was, or just as the sister of the man who was leading them? I knew my place, but I didn't always know if they saw me as more than just a supporting figure. When we sang, it was as if the whole world stood still. The moment was pure, filled with joy, and I could feel the energy in the air as the women danced. We had crossed the Red Sea. We were free, and I was leading them in praise. It was my voice they followed. It was my leadership that guided them in those first moments of our freedom. I felt so alive, so connected to God's calling for me in that instant. But even in the joy, there was a part of me that wondered, how long would this last? How long would I be able to lead without Moses' shadow covering everything I did? It was a moment of triumph, yes, but I couldn't ignore the tension that lingered beneath the surface. I was leading the women, but Moses was still the one everyone looked to. Even as I sang, I felt the pull of his authority. Was I truly seen, or was I just part of his story? I loved leading them. I loved that moment. But the pressure never left. How long would I be able to stand in the light without Moses eventually stepping into it? And what did that mean for me? Could I keep leading, or would I always be in his shadow? I spoke, I questioned. Was it wrong to wonder? I wanted to know why Moses was the only one who had a direct line to God. Why was he the one everyone turned to, the one who spoke for God, while I, his sister, his equal in calling, was left behind? I had been with him every step of the way. I had heard God's voice too. I had led his people, just as Moses did. But when I spoke out, everything changed. I wasn't just a sister anymore. I was someone who doubted, someone who challenged the order, and God didn't take kindly to that. The words I spoke came from frustration, from wanting to understand. But in that moment, when I questioned Moses' authority, I felt the sting of rejection. I didn't realize how deeply that would wound me, how far it would cost me. I thought I was speaking for Israel's good. But the price of challenging Moses was more than I could bear. And then, just like that, everything changed. Direct Bible verse, Numbers 12:10. When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. The moment the cloud lifted, the punishment became clear. God's judgment was swift, and I was struck down. I wasn't just excluded from the camp. I was excluded from his mercy. I never thought it would be me. I always believed I was doing what was right, standing up for what I thought was just. I questioned Moses, yes, but I believed my heart was in the right place. But God, he showed me who I really was. When I looked down at my skin, pale and covered in leprosy, it hit me hard. This wasn't just a physical affliction. It was a spiritual one. It was God's way of humbling me, of reminding me that his will is not to be questioned. Being alone, separated from the camp, from my people, it broke me. It wasn't just the physical pain, it was the isolation, the silence. I had spent so much time fighting for recognition, for my place, that I had forgotten the most important thing, humility. I had been proud of my role, proud of my voice, proud of my leadership. But it wasn't my plan. It was God's plan. And his plan was for Moses to lead, not me. I needed to accept that. The truth was hard to swallow, but it was clear. I had acted out of frustration, not faith. And the price of that was my own exclusion. The feeling of being left out, of being cut off from my people, was more painful than any physical affliction. After 7 days, God healed me. He restored me. But when I returned to the camp, I wasn't the same. I had spent the 7 days in isolation, in silence, a time to reflect, to think, to truly understand what had happened. God didn't just heal my body. He healed my heart, my spirit. I had been given a voice that I used without always considering the weight it carried. But I had to learn to use it with humility, not pride. I had been so focused on my role, on my authority, that I forgot who I truly served. I wasn't just leading for myself, for my glory. I was leading for God, for his people, and that meant I had to put aside my pride. I had to let go of my desire to control everything and trust him. This wasn't my journey to lead. It was his. I had a part to play, but it was always part of his greater plan. When I returned, I understood that my leadership wasn't about standing in front of the people. It was about supporting, guiding, helping them move forward, always pointing them back to God. I had been called to walk alongside Moses, but ultimately it was God who was leading us. And I had to trust him, even when I didn't understand why things had to happen the way they did. I wasn't Moses, but I wasn't meant to be. I was Miriam, a woman chosen to lead, and I carried that calling with all that I had. I look back now, and I see the journey, the moments of joy, the moments of doubt, and the pain of learning humility. I wasn't perfect, but I did what God called me to do. The women followed me, they trusted me, and God used me, even when I doubted myself. I helped lead them, encouraged them, and I walked beside them through the hardest times. They needed a voice, and God gave me one. Even when I felt overlooked, even when I felt frustrated, he was using me. And I couldn't see it then, but I see it now, In the end, it wasn't about the title. It wasn't about being a prophetess or a leader in the way I imagined. It was about the calling, and I answered it in my own way. I wasn't Moses, but I was exactly who God needed me to be. And in that, I find peace. I've walked my path, and I've learned from every step. Some of those steps were difficult, others were full of joy, but all of them shaped me. I trusted God, and even when I faltered, He used me. I wasn't perfect. I didn't always understand His plan, but I gave my best, and that was all He ever asked of me. I led in my own way, sometimes with strength, sometimes with doubt, but always with the knowledge that He was guiding me. And now I leave Israel in God's hands, trusting He will guide them to where they need to be. I did my part. Now it's their turn to follow His will, and I have peace in knowing that God will lead them, just as He led me. Miriam, Moses' sister. If you found meaning in these stories, don't forget to share them with others and subscribe to the channel. Your support is highly appreciated. Thank you. Hit the notification button.